So, what does Sartherial the Everwatcher, a Vampire Vargolf, and Krokgar on Grimlock have in common? If you said they're all really fucking annoying, that would be a fair assessment. But the thing here is that they're all goddamn slippery and hard to keep hold of. You can't pin them down, they just charge around and do whatever they want. And there are quite a few of these type of units in Total War Warhammer that will wade their way through infantry like they're a bull in a crowd of 9-year-olds. This can be a huge problem because we can't really get a lot of damage on them and they just charge around disrupting our army all over the gaff. You thought you had this problem solved by bringing a bunch of halberds or spearmen, but guess what? They cannot hold on to these units. So if you bring spearmen or halberds thinking they're going to hold on to Manfred, think again. They may be good for deterring him and chasing him away, but he's not going to stand and fight them unless there's a micro error, thus they'll have a hard time putting any damage on him. So then, well, you could turn to your ranged units and they can gun them down, right? Handguns, missiles, artillery, all that stuff can shoot large units down no problem. Which is all well and good and is definitely a tactic to employ, but missiles may be disrupted, maybe by the very unit they're trying to shoot. They may lose line of sight, they may need to change their angle, they may just run out of ammo. And while they can put damage into them, they can't necessarily stop them charging around. So who can? Who the hell can save us from these rampaging beasts? It is none other than monstrous infantry. Rat ogres, trolls, minotaurs, kroxigors, any of these large beastie infantries that can push back against the high mass of these units that are charging around. As you can see here, Sartherial is trying to get across the map, but there's a bunch of rat ogres in his way and he is going absolutely nowhere, taking damage all the while. Of course, the more surrounded the better, so that there's no escape routes and he's going to take a hammering to get out of there. For those who don't know, there is a hidden stat called mass, which determines how big and heavy a unit is and thus how easily they can run through other units. So the assumption is that all these slippery units that you can't hold on to have very high mass, and that allows them to glide through infantry units that try to hold them down. Except for monstrous infantry, because it is also quite high mass. A troll is pretty heavy, for example. Even the almighty humongous Stegodon can't seem to push its way past even one or two Ushabti that may be in its way. Which maybe doesn't make too much sense because look at the size of them compared to one Ushabti. But still. The same applies to those crafty flying lords that will swoop down, do their damage and then run away before anything can get a hold of them. Monstrous infantry will be able to get a hold of them, especially if you can surround them, which isn't always easy unless you have 2 units, but still they won't be able to push their way past these mighty monstrous infantries. As you can see here, poor old Luen doesn't have a chance in hell of getting past these minotaurs. They're simply too big and too heavy. But of course, any player that isn't a complete clown sock won't be trying to pull his way through minotaurs anyway. He'll turn around and simply go out an opening, which is a hell of a lot easier than trying to push past minotaurs, and he can fly away to safety. So how can we combat that? Well, quite simply, anything that can keep up with him will stop him from flying off. He may be able to escape the minotaurs and push out of them, but something as simple as warhounds or some cavalry can stop him flying off. All they really need to be is fast enough to keep up. They'll just keep running behind him and twatting him in the back of the head and he won't be able to fly off. You can see these centaurs giving him problems. The warhounds are going to come up and they're just going to chew on his ankles and he won't be able to fly off and he'll just take damage this whole time. A useful tactic for controlling those dive bombing hit and run lords. Cavalry on its own can also be pretty good for controlling these rampaging units. They may not have quite the mass of the monstrous infantry, but they still have some mass more than infantry, so they'll be harder to push through, especially if they're all bunched up. But even if the enemy does push through, you can quickly give chase and keep up with them, and again start punching them in the back of the head, keeping up the pressure and damage. This is just a way to stop them from doing whatever they want, wherever they want, all over your army. If these units have armor piercing, it's even better because then you can put a significant amount of damage into them. So, missiles can hurt them, cavalry can pressure them and control them, but monstrous infantry is the roadblock. They will stop them from running around all over the place, which can be the biggest problem with these types of units. If you can't keep them in one place, you can't really get damage on them. Even monstrous infantry that isn't trying to attack a large unit can still slow them down. These trolls here, not even trying to attack this Kemrian War Sphinx, but they're in his way and slowing him down. So the moral of this story is that if you're fed up of Sartherial or Krokgar or Vargos charging around your army doing whatever they want, bring monstrous infantry to smash them in. Doesn't even matter if they're anti-large or not. They'll probably have armor piercing damage, which will do plenty, and more importantly, they'll be able to stop them from running around all over the place. So there you go. I've linked a bunch of other videos in the cards that may be related to this, so check those out if you want more knowledge. I hope you've enjoyed this, thank you for watching, I will see you in the future.